important aspect of financial planning, and that is known as personal financial planning. Before we do any financial planning, to do our own financial planning is very important. So let us go in depth into what are the aspects a person should consider before he plan a personal financial goals. Now, what is financial planning? See, financial planning helps an individual or a household. See, whenever we talk as an individual, it can be an individual also, or it can be a household, because most of the time, individual gets married and will have a family. So, what should they have? They first of all they should have adequate income, that is sufficient income and resources to meet the current and future expenses and needs. Whatever future expenses are there and current expenses and needs are there, all those aspect has to be covered by an individual household income. So the second should, it should enable the identification of key goals. So the financial planning should enable an individual to identify his goals. The goals may be short term for personal education or upskilling. It can also be education of the children. It can be owning a house, and long term goals may remain retirement planning and also insurance planning. So there has to be an action plan in such a way the finances should be realigned to meet those goals. It means, first of all, you identify your goal, you prioritize your goal. Prioritize means you note down the goal from most important to less important, and accordingly you align your finances in such a way that the most important goals will get more finance allocation compared to the less important financial goals. So what should be the current income which an individual is getting? What should it cater for? That is very important, right? It is a common sense, everybody knows it, but nevertheless, in most of the time when you do personal financial planning, if you don't note down what all your income should cater for and how to plan your finances to cater for this income, more often than not people get into debt trap. Debt means they borrow money and they will not be able to repay it. So the first one is the income should cater for regular household expenses. Whatever regular household expenses, groceries, petrol, electricity bills, water bills, children education, bus fees, and everything, that it includes everything. The second is it should provide when there is low or no income. This is very important because most of the 70% of the Indian population is in private job. Okay, in such cases, the people may shift job, or people may know when they shift one job to another job, there may be a gap, or in also sometimes the package may not be commensurate with what they were getting previously because of downturn in the economy or something like that. So in such cases, how to provide, that should also be undertaken. That current income which you are having, that should cater for that also. It should cater for big ticket expenses like education and marriage. Very obvious, most of the private sector people, they should cater for a very big corpus for retirement, so that they should be able to live a healthy and a comfortable life after retirement. And finally, large medical expenses. As you age, the medical expenses tend to increase. So in such case, what type of medical insurance you have to take, or you have to keep some separate money for that. So all these things should be catered by your current income. And finally, you should have an emergency corpus for unforeseen contingencies. So these are the various aspects your current income should cater for. Now let's go to the very important aspect. So financial planning is required to be done by self, or you need a financial advisor. If you are very financially savvy person, and if you know every aspects of finance, you can go in for your own personal financial planning. You need not hire any financial advisor. Uh, However, these days financial advisors are available who will generally give you a very good idea about how to plan your finance, because they take stock of each and every requirement of your life and then accordingly give a suitable advice. Uh, what should be the reason for you to hire a financial advisor? See, the financial products which are available today are very large and diverse. There are n number of mutual funds available, n number of medical insurance products available, term insurance product available. So most more often than not, if you are not an expert in the all these aspects, sometimes any selection of bad financial product may put you in trouble at a later date. So, in order to select a good financial product to achieve your financial goals, there will be a need for a financial advisor. Secondly, you need to link specific products to need of every goal of the client. See, what happens is there are sometimes short-term goals will be there, sometimes long-term goals will be there. For long-term goals, you can invest in risky, mutual funds or risky financial product. Whereas for short-term goals, you need to be very conservative and has to invest in debt funds or provident fixed deposit or something like that. So all these thing has to be considered before you invest. Secondly, sometimes it may be difficult for a client to understand these diverse products. So in such cases, you may need a financial advisor. uh, Now, coming to what is the role of a financial planner. See, there are two aspects. One is a financial planning, and another is financial advisory. We will discuss in detail what is the difference between these two. Okay. See, a financial planner will sit down with the person or a client, and he first identify the needs and goals of an individual. What are his needs, short-term needs or daily needs, and what are his goals? Secondly, he recognize the income and expenditure patterns, estimate the future goals of an individual, and manage assets and liabilities accordingly. So this is a very important point. So first he recognizes your what are your income and expenses, what are your assets and liabilities, and what are your future goals. So based on all these aspects, holistically he will try to give you a good financial advice. He selects based on your goals and future goals and your assets and liabilities. He selects suitable financial product and correct asset allocation is done. See, selecting a financial product is not the end. You have to the asset allocation should be very perfect and optimal in case if you want to have a good return on the investment you have done, whether it is a short term or the long term. Now, all the financial product which comes will have two aspects. One is risk and another is reward. So risk reward should always be analyzed in detail before picking up a financial product based on the risk appetite of the client. So some clients may be have more risk appetite, and some clients may have very less risk appetite. So this aspect has to be considered, and accordingly a financial planner should give advice. So then after assessing the requirement of financial product, then adequate weights should be assigned to each class periodically. Weight means suppose if you are investing 100 rupees per month, and this 100 rupees per month should go to how much? 20 rupees should go to mutual fund, 15 rupees should go to debt fund. So that is called as weightage. So this weightage has to keep changing depending upon the risk and reward which is being produced by the financial product. So it is very important for the financial planner to keep an eye constantly on the changing market conditions, and accordingly the weightage on each asset has to be changed. So now let us analyze the difference between a financial advisory and financial planning. See, financial planning is more comprehensive and long term compared to financial advisory. See, let us see what does a financial planner do. See, financial planner follow a specific process to achieve the goals which was discussed with his client. If the client has said, I have a, after 5 years, I need so much of money for my children's education. After 10 years, I need so much of money for my graduation of my child. After 15 years, I need a house. And after 20 years, I would like to retire. So these are the goals. So based on these goals, the financial planner will select appropriate product. Secondly, it is a comprehensive process which include retirement, insurance, investment, and estate planning also. We know retirement planning, we know insurance planning. Insurance planning involves term insurance planning also, and at the same time health insurance planning also. It may include accident insurance and other insurances. Next is what is the type of investment you should have, and finally estate planning. Estate planning is nothing but your planning with respect to the transfer of your property to your children. So that is called as estate planning. So financial planner will get involved in your estate planning also. Now it is very important for a financial planner to sit and discuss the goals with his client. So he will help the client to have goal setting and meeting the goal at appropriate and correct time. Secondly, he should ensure that the financial activities which he is undertaking should not at cross purpose. What does it mean cross purpose? See, one financial product should not have any adverse effect on another financial product, that is known as cross purpose. He should continuously monitor the situation and take necessary corrective action and course correction in the due course. So there should be continuity in financial planning. That's what I expressed in my first this thing, that the financial planner is, it's a comprehensive process, and there should be continuity in the financial planning. If there is any obstruction in the financial planning, there may be some problem as far as your return on investments are concerned. Now let us see, what does a financial advisory do? See, financial advisor's only job is to meet a specific need of his client. He may give an advice on stocks or mutual funds. That is all. He will not be involved in any other aspect of the financial planning of a client. Second is, he will look at small part of total financial requirement, as I have explained. He may look at the retirement product or an insurance product or a mutual fund product. So he will touch upon only very limited aspect. He will not be taking entire holistic view of the financial planning of a client. He will look only at meeting specific target as asked by his client. He will not be worried about the cross purpose of advice given. See, if you are going in for a insurance, if somebody gives you equity link saving scheme, it will not be of any help, because if you are already investing in equity, and so having an equity link savings will be at cross purpose. So a financial planner will do that. He will ensure that this type of cross purpose investment does not happen. But whereas the financial advisory, if you ask him for an insurance product, he may give you ELSS, that is equity linked savings scheme, not aware that you are already invested aggressively in the equity. So he will not be aware, because he will be only looking at the insurance product. Here the individual or the client has to take the initiative of ensuring that his investment products are not at cross purpose, but not of the financial advisory. It is just a short term one time exercise for which the financial advisory will take their commission. So let us now understand what is the scope of financial planning analysis. The first important aspect of financial planning is goal setting. So first you set the goal for the client, and then you prioritize that goal. Prioritize means you put the goal in the ascending order, which is the most important goal that will be written first, and after that less important goals will be written one after the other. Second is cash flow management and budgeting. So you should know what is the cash flow of your client and how to manage those cash flow, and at the same time you should do adequate budgeting for various investment portfolios which you are recommending for your client. Thirdly, insurance planning, which we have already discussed. And next, data management and counseling. Data management means various documentation of the client with respect to his various investment product which has been advised. All those things will be taken care by your financial planner. Thirdly, he will do an investment planning and asset allocation, as we have discussed, that he is responsible for your investment and also for allocation of the asset to appropriate investment product based on risk and reward. Along with all this financial planning, the most left out planning is the tax planning. So most of the financial product should ensure that the individual will be able to save taxes on the investment which he has made. So that aspect should also be taken care of from by the financial planner. Of course, retirement planning is already there. It is a long-term process. So hence the products which will be advised by the financial planner will be of those products which will serve long-term purpose, which are aggressive in nature, so that even if you invest in that, it will have a long gestation period and things will get equaled out. Finally, estate planning, which I have already discussed, that is transfer of your property to your heirs. Now, goal setting with prioritizing of goals. See, goal is nothing but what is required to be achieved. Now, the goal should be measurable. What does it mean? So, if you say after 5 years I want money, it is not a measurable goal. If you say after 5 years I want 50 lakh for my child's schooling, then that is a measurable goal, because you have quantified how much money is required, in how much time is required. So that is called as a measurable goal. Next is the goal should be realistic. Suppose if you are earning an income of 1 lakh per month, and after 5 years, if you say I want 5 crores, that is not a realistic goal. That is not going to happen, because your income is not able to cater for the goal which you are trying to achieve after 5 years. If you say 5 crore, that will not be possible. So your goal should be realistic, and your goal should be time bound. That's what I said. Now if you say after I want 5 crores, if you don't say when you want 5 crores, so it is not a time bound requirement. So if you say I want 5 crores after 5 years, so then that is a time bound requirement. So all your goals should be measurable and it should be time bound. See, since you have limited resources of income, so all your goals are required to be prioritized based on their importance. Now, coming on the next aspect is focusing on the important goal. See, the important goals for any parent will be children's education, short-term goals like a house, car loan repayment, and very important, retirement goals should always start as soon as you pick up a job. You cannot say that I will start my retirement planning after 40 years. That's never going to happen. So if you start your retirement planning as soon as you join a job, then you will have to spend less, and the power of compounding will help you to accumulate a very good corpus at the end of your job, or whenever you feel you would like to retire. See, there is no need to prioritize the consumption goals like holidays and large purchases is not very important. So they are all consumption goals. It has got no value after 5 years. So if you go back, spend 5 lakhs for the holidays and come back, other than the emotional, aspect, it will not have any other effect. So these, consumption goals should be taken with a pinch of salt, and you should prioritize your other goals compared to your consumption goals. Now, it is very important to stagger the timing of your goals. You cannot say that after 10 years I want money for my children's education also, holidays also, house also. That is not possible. So you cannot achieve all the goals due to variation in income and sudden expenditure. So as a result, the consumption goals need to be staggered or rescheduled. You may have to reschedule your holidays. You may have to reschedule your other consumption goals like big purchases of music system or something like that. So that is very important for you. See, housing loan always takes precedence more holidays because housing loan is an appreciating asset. So you have to take precedence over holidays, and any allotment of your income on a monthly basis should be first done for the housing loan. Even if you use the loans prudently, you can help tide over your short-term needs. Now, coming to the cash management and budgeting. See, cash flow is to identify your income and identify your expenses. These are the main aspects of the cash flow management. First of all, you identify your income, then you identify your expenses. You then analyze your income versus expenses. Whether income is more than your expenses, then you may save something. But if your income is less than your expenses, then you are in trouble. So then you have to identify pitfalls. If at all, if the expenses are greater than income, you should sit down and see what are the if you are using your credit card more, then you should sit down and analyze why your expenses are more and which expenses you can cut. Based on all these analysis, you create a budget plan, and after creating the budget plan, i- it is to avoid cash flow problem like delayed receipt or early expenses. The creating a budget plan will help you uh, cash flow problems in your day, monthly cash flow problems. So that is a very important aspect we need to consider. Next, coming to insurance planning. See, what is insurance? Insurance is basically done to avoid huge down payment due to unforeseen events like accidents, health problem, fire, etc. Now, insurance is basically a risk transfer mechanism. So you are transferring your risk to an insurance company. That's why you pay premium for the insurance. Now, general insurance is basically for loss and damage to property. There is various general insurance product. You can go into that. I am not going to those details. Health insurance, self-explanatory, accident insurance, and finally debt management and counseling. So let us come to this important aspect. Um, what is debt? To borrow your money today is a debt. So if you borrow anything, whether through credit card or through your friend, it is considered as a debt. Basically, debt is tomorrow's income. Tomorrow's income you are taking today, either from your friend or through credit card. Now coming to the next point, there are basically two type of properties. One is called as the appreciating property, like house, plot, gold. The next is the depreciating property, like car, bike. Now, if you borrow excessively, either from the bank or from through the credit card, it will lead to a debt trap, because once you borrow more, then you will not have sufficient money. In order to fulfill your commitment, you borrow from some other bank and try to clear the loans of the present bank which is asking you to repay your loan. So that will become a debt trap. Now coming to investment planning and asset allocation. Basically, investment planning is done for funding of financial goal. Secondly, you should be able to invest in right asset, whether it is house or anything. So you should be investing in the right. If you are investing in a house property, you should select your location in such a way that this property, house property, is going to appreciate rather than depreciate. Whatever investment you do should result in right return within the risk profile of the investment. It is very important to understand your return should be within your risk profile. You cannot invest your money, hard-earned money, into a product which is highly risky. So, based on your risk profile and the amount of shock you are able to take, you should be on the amount of time which you are going to wait. Then you should accordingly prudently invest your money. So what should happen is you should construct a portfolio uh, w- you know based on your goals. Like if you are having a five, after 5 years you want some money, you should keep some money in the FD for a 5 year term. After 10 years, if you want money, so then you can keep some, start investing, putting your money into provident fund, so that after 10 years you can take that money out from your provident fund. Even though that is not a very good option, but still, for your house, which is going to be an appreciating asset, it will not be a bad idea to buy, take some money on loan from your PF. And PF generally gives good rate of interest. Now, coming to the tax planning, see, first of all, you should identify to which tax regime you fall under. You know, there are various tax regime now: new tax regime, old tax regime, which tax bracket you come in based on your income. All these aspect has to be covered. Secondly, you should analyze the impact of tax on your finances. See, suppose if you do not plan your tax properly, once you get into the 30 or 40% tax bracket, 30% of your income will go as taxes. So it becomes very important for you to analyze and accordingly do investment, so that you can save some tax. So the important aspect of the financial planner is to ensure appropriate tax saving instruments to his clients. See, there are various tax implication even on investments. Various investment which is being carried out, whether in debt instruments or in any other this thing. Suppose if you are, put your money in equity, there will be dividends, there will be rents, and even for the your gilt fund returns, there will be tax implication. So you have to consider the tax implication or various type of insurance products which you are having. The financial planner should be able to advise his client based on the short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. What will be its effect? How much money or tax will go in case of a short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. Now coming to the retirement planning. See, um, more often than not, people who are in private sector, the retirement corpus which they are going to accumulate over a period of time will become very less, and they suffer, um, once they retire, because they will not be having, and they may have to be dependent on their children, which is a very bad thing in the today's environment. So it is very important that financial planner give adequate importance to the retirement planning. Before considering retirement planning, it should be understood the time value of money and the impact of inflation on the retirement benefits. So, time value of money is the power of compounding, and impact of inflation is over a period of time, inflation is going to increase. So, how does inflation affects whether your return from your investment should be greater than the inflation at any particular year? Uh, it is very important to select investment options for long-term goals, which are slightly aggressive and give more return, like retirement planning. Timely rebalancing of the portfolio is also a very important aspect, which has to be conducted by the financial planner. Now, coming to the estate planning. What is estate planning? I have already explained. See, wealth is always passed on to generation, and there are various legal aspects with respect to entitlements under personal law. So if you don't leave a will, and if you have two or three children, ultimately it is going to end up in lot of legal hassles, both for the children also, and with respect to the government also. So estate planning, one should, in the present environment and the present situation and present generation, it is very important to have an estate planning. The most important aspect of the estate planning is your documents, whether it the savings which you are having, the property documents. All these documents has to be maintained in a proper way, and it has to be a smooth transition between the parents and the childrens or the beneficiaries. Beneficiaries may be, they may be heirs means your children, or any person whom you consider as child. It can be to charity also, and it can be to other identified beneficiaries by the people who are transferring their property. Now coming to concept of asset, liabilities and net worth, it's very important. Uh, See, what are assets? Assets are of physical assets. Physical assets always have intrinsic value. Physical asset means your house, your gold. They are all physical asset. Every physical asset will have it. Even your vehicle, car has an intrinsic value. Uh, some physical assets may have positive correlation with inflation. It means the value of the physical asset also increase when the inflation increases. The best example is your land or house. See, the valuation of the house always increases with in correlation with the inflation. There are some assets like gold and property which are appreciating assets. Next is, it is very important to understand physical assets have got less regulation or limited regulation. Now coming to the another aspect of the physical asset is physical assets are illiquid. Illiquid means you will not be able to sell it as fastly as you want. Like suppose if you want to immediately, if you want money by selling your site or a plot, it becomes very difficult to find a client as per your money requirement. So that's why physical assets are generally considered as illiquid. Physical asset should generally be a growth asset. It means it grows with the inflation, as well as it should be income generating. Suppose if you have a house, the value of the property of the house will keep increasing also, and at the same time you can give that house on rent and generate some income also. Now coming to the next type of asset is the financial assets. Financial assets here is your investment in bonds, equity, fixed deposit, etc. See, financial markets are highly regulated. I will be discussing financial markets in subsequent videos. If you are interested, you can go and check those videos. Financial markets are highly volatile. For example, your equity market or Sensex, Nifty, they are all highly volatile. But the most important aspect of financial aspect is it is highly liquid. You can sell your bonds or equity anytime you want and you will get your money back. See, financial assets are growth also and at the same time income generating also. So your bonds and equity you will have intrinsic value of the equity also. If the value of the equity keep increasing, you will have increase it will the value of the equity or the share also increases, and if the company is giving dividends, you will get regular dividends also. Now coming to liability. Liabilities are nothing but the money you have taken from people. And if you have done any trading, the leveraging you take in trading is also a liability. So what should be your net worth? Your net worth should be your all assets added together and you subtract it by your liabilities. That becomes your net worth. It is always better to have a positive net worth. Now coming to the financial planning process, how does it happen? First of all, you establish and define your client planner relationship. What is client planner relationship? There is one side is your client, another is your financial planner. So you should sit down with your client and analyze and describe and understand what is your scope of work, what is your terms and condition. After doing these two aspects, then you should gather client data. The client data includes the client's income, expenses, what does the client want to achieve, that is the goals of the client, and what is the time frame in which all the goals are to be achieved. Now you have to analyze based on the incomes and expenses what is the financial status, whether the individual is comfortable or the individual is in distress or the individual is having difficulty managing his finances. So based on all this, you should present a financial planning recommendation to the client. See, financial planning recommendation basically includes three, four aspects. If the income is less, the client may the financial planner may advise the client to augment the income through various means, going part time or to picking up a second job or something like that. Because if the financial goals has to be achieved, and if the income is not commensurate with in achieving the financial goals, then the individual have to augment his income through other means of jobs. Or the second aspect is going to be, in case the augmenting of income is not possible, then the expenses has to be controlled and reduced. And then if some of the assets which is being taken by the client is not good, if somebody has taken a mutual fund, which is not doing performing well, then you need to reallocate on those assets. And finally, whatever the liabilities the client is having, that should client liabilities has to be efficiently managed, so that those liabilities will be off the client's shoulder immediately. After that, you implement the financial planning recommendation, and you then complete the paperwork. Once the paperwork is complete, then it becomes very important for the financial planner to monitor the financial planning recommendations. Now, what are the business models in finance? Because this is very important for the client also to understand what is the business model in financial advice. Because if you are taking a financial advice from a financial advisor, you should be aware of their business model. Now, the first business model is fee only. Matlab they take fees and give your financial planning and advisory accordingly. Secondly, the fees may be a one-time fee because he may be giving one-time advice, or it may be a review and revision fee, because every year if the client asks you to review and revision the financial status, then you take review and revision fees. Some people don't take fixed fees, they take fee based on the percentage of assets which is being advised. 1% of the total. Suppose if you are having a corpus of about 10 crore, and if you say I want 1% of that, so 10 crore 1% is 10 lakh, so that will be the fees for the financial advisor. Now, if the financial planner advises certain experts to do the financial planning, then the client is required to pay the referral fee for those engaging those experts also. Now, coming to the referral fee for execution of plan through others, so that is also very important aspect. There are other fees like portfolio construction fees. Some financial advisors take, but if the financial planner is following the asset based fee, then all these aspects may not be considered. Next comes the only execution only fees. See, execution only fee is, you have a financial advisor coming to you. You tell financial advisor what to do. He will not advise anything to you. But nevertheless, whatever things you want him to do, he will do all those financial planning, execution of those financial plans. For that, he charges a fee. So that fee is called as execution only services fee. Some investment advisor may make the plan also, and that it will be executed as per the plan. There are certain financial advisors who do not take fee for planning, but they get commissions for distributing the products. Whatever the financial products which they are recommending to the client, they will get commission from that company or that firm if they recommend certain financial product, and they will forego the financial planning fees to the client. Wraps and platforms is basically nothing but, these are today there are all computer generated technology based advisory services are available, but they are all fixed advisory services and they are not flexible. So this is about the financial model in in financial advisory planning and financial planning. This is all about how an individual should plan his finances, how we can go about getting a financial advisor, whether you want a financial planner or a financial advisor. All these aspects have been covered in detail in this chapter. So finally, a client or an advisor can associate it with the platform and sell the platform model portfolio. So this is all about the financial planning of an individual.
Let us understand the importance of cash flow in personal finance. Cash flow basically means the income which you get and the expenditure which you make. So whenever you make personal financial decision, it is very important for you to analyze your cash flows. So in order to analyze your cash flow, you need to prepare a household budget. So how to prepare a household budget? We will discuss it now. Now, what are the components of a household budget? Household budget basically consists of heads of income, matlab whatever the income which you are going to get. The incomes are of two types. One is the regular income, which is maybe your salary, or it can be your business income, or any other type of income which you are making. There are various avenues through which regular income can come. See, other aspect is the non-regular income. Now, non-regular income is your investment income. Whatever money you have invested, uh, if that money generates some amount of income, it is called as investment income. For example, if you have put some amount in your fixed deposit, the fixed deposit may generate some income for you. Next comes the heads of expenditure. Uh, in expenditure, we have two components. One is the mandatory expenses, means which you just cannot avoid, like essential living expenses. And the next one is the discretionary expenses. Discretionary expenses are you can take a decision whether you would like to make that expense or not to make that expense. So we have to analyze these two aspects. One is the income and another is the expenditure. Now you have to calculate the difference between your monthly surplus in hand and savings. See, how is monthly surplus calculated? It is calculated after deducting mandatory deductions and contributions to funds and investments. See, monthly surplus only comes once you deduct what is mandatorily required for your existence and certain amount of contribution you make to funds and investments. Like you may make it to PPF, some people may make it to Provident Fund, some people can make it to Public Provident Fund, and some people can contribute to new pension scheme. So all these contribution is deducted from your month.
So savings will be monthly surplus in hand plus investments in fund. Let us take an example and understand this concept. See, uh, take the example of Ravi. Okay, now his monthly regular income is around 1 lakh. Okay, now monthly income from investment, whatever investment which he has made, whether he has put it in FD or public provident fund, he is getting a return of around 10,000 from those investment which he has made. Now, what are his mandatory expenses? Mandatory expenses are basically two. One is 20,000 he is making contribution to the provident fund, and 5,000 is the total annual tax outgo of the individual. So the mandatory expenses which he cannot avoid is 25,000. Now coming to the essential living expenses. Now he has got an essential living expenses of 20,000, that is grocery, petrol, milk, etc. Everything included, it comes to about 20,000. Now let us understand his discretionary expenses. See, discretionary expenses are those expenses which are not necessary but we usually undertake. For example, any expenses on entertainment and lifestyle expenses, they are all considered as discretionary expenses. It means you can take a decision whether to make that expense or not make that expense. It is not mandatory. uh, Going to a movie once a week and dining out is a discretionary expense. You can avoid it or you can go through it. And the monthly investment is around 10,000, and he has got a loan outstanding of 40,000 every month he has to pay. So what will be his total income? His total income will be his regular income, that is the salary income, plus investment income, which is 1,10,000. Now what are his total expenses? His total expenses are his discretionary expenses, loan expenses because he has to make the payment for the loan, plus essential living expenses without which he cannot live, which comes to how much? He is making a discretionary expense of 10,000, he is making an essential living expense of 20,000, and his loan outgo every month is EMI is 40,000. So that comes to about 70,000. So these are his total expenses. Now coming to net income. What is net income? Net income is always total income minus contribution to the provident fund minus income tax, because that will be his net income, because he has to mandatorily take out PF contribution and income tax that will be deducted as source. So it is 1,10,000 minus his contribution to PF of 20,000 minus the tax outgo of 5,000. So his net income will be 85,000. So he will get a income in hand of 85,000. Now let us go further ahead and explain what should be his expenses. Okay, now in order to understand the expenses of the Ravi, what will be his expenses? He is having an essential living expense of 20,000. Okay, and he has a monthly investment of around 10,000 rupees, isn't it? So he is making a monthly investment of 10,000 rupees, and he has got an essential living expense of 20,000 rupees, and he has got a discretionary expenses of 10,000 rupees, and he has a mandatory expenses of 25,000 rupees. So what should be his now surplus in hand? His surplus will be his total income, okay, minus his total expenses. It's a very simple thing. His total income is how much? 1,10,000. What are his total expenses, which we have already discussed? Discretionary, loan and essential living. That comes to 70,000. So his total expenses will be 70,000. So when you deduct total income minus total expenses, that comes to surplus of 40,000. So he has a surplus in hand of 40,000 with him. Now what will be his savings? The surplus in hand is a saving also, but he is making a contribution to the provident fund and he is making some investments of 10,000. So all these are savings for him. So what will be his savings? Surplus of 40,000 every month. He will he will have about 40,000 in his hand after every expenses, plus investment of 10,000 he is making, plus contribution to PF he is making. So that comes to 70,000. So Ravi is making an annual expenses savings of monthly savings of 70,000 rupees. See, that is how you prepare a household budget. Okay.
Now, how do you define cash flow? So let us understand the components of cash flow. Cash has got cash inflows and cash outflows. So it basically consists of management of cash, that is to ensure cash inflows are actually received in hand as in paper without any clauses. Expenses are even throughout the month and is not erratic like more expenses during first 6 days than in the last 6 days, and the income gets delayed by 6 days always. Then there will be a cash mismatch. See, you have to understand, as far as cash management is concerned, cash receipts are actually the cash which you receive in your hand. It is not the cash which are receivable which is considered here. So we have to be careful about this aspect. Similarly, expenses are also should be evened out. That usually, in a monthly expenses, the first first few days of the month, the expenses will be more, and similarly in the last few days of the month, the expenses will be more. So evening out that will be a little bit difficult practically. Now, coming to the income and expenditure statement. See, what is cash statement? Cash statement is actual income received in hand and actual expenditure incurred. That is cash statement. Now we will consider income and expenditure statement. Now, income and expenditure statement has income and expenditure not actually received and incurred, but that is not the case in a cash statement. So let us understand the difference between a cash statement and an income and expenditure statement. In cash statement, everything is taken physically. Matlab, physically the cash should have come and physically the expenses would have been made. That is called as a cash statement. Whereas income and expenditure statement is uh, income which is receivable, income which has not even come, and the expenditure which is not even incurred will be considered in income and expenditure statement. Let us take an example. See, if you know the salary which you receive is actually for the previous month, that is, the month of June salary is received on the 1st of July, isn't it? Similarly, the credit card expenditure incurred in the previous month can be paid after the grace period, which may come after 15 to 20 days. Hence, expenditure is already made 15 days back, but you are going to make payment of that expenditure after 15 to 20 days, depending upon the grace period and the date of payment on which you have to make for your credit card. So these are all the nuances you have to understand, because this makes the difference between a cash statement and a income and expenditure statement. Now coming to how to budget and how to do a forecast. First, let us define income. In order to define income, we have to first list the definite income which you get. After identifying your definite income sources, then you have to identify mandatory expenses, essential expenses, and discretionary expenses. What is left out is our savings. So the focus should be on managing expenses. See, there are two ways you can increase your income, or you have to control your expenses in order to ensure that you have adequate savings. Either one is required to be done. How can you do it? Mandatory expenses you cannot reduce. However, discretionary expenses can always be reduced. Instead of going four times a month for a hotel on weekends, you can reduce it to 2 times a month. Similarly, instead of going to uh, movies, in PVRs or any other theaters, you can stay put and wait for it to come in the Netflix. So there are various means. I mean, I'm just giving an example. It is not sacrosanct as such. Now coming to the forecasting. Uh, See, there should be a specific basis on which the forecasting is done, because forecasting is the one which you say that you are going to get some income in future. So for that you should be having a specific basis. Without basis, if you say I will get 10,000 in next 1 month, and if you don't get it, what? So that is why it says that forecasting should be on a specific basis. You should take into consideration evolving condition, how things are evolving in your household. And your forecasting is always a dynamic exercise, because it is a common sense. We don't know what expenditure is going to come in your household. That is the reason why the assumption which you make during forecasting should be very carefully looked into, and then only you should make a forecasting. You can take your expert opinion. There are various experts. Your expert can be your wife or your friend or anybody or for that matter, you can take any financial planner advice before taking all this into consideration. Now, coming to monitoring budgets and provision for savings, this is a very important aspect or exercise you have to carry out if you want to save adequate for your future needs. What does it involve? See, it involves recording the actual income and expenditure and monitor these incomes and expenditure on a continuous basis. It can be done at the end of the month, or you can do the monitoring once a quarter. You should always identify those expenses which are overshooting the budget estimate. I will tell you a few examples. You know, binge shopping is one of the major reasons where generally we overshoot our budget estimates, because uh, now online shopping has made such a thing, and basically discount sales and all actually make people to buy more which are generally not required in their daily life. So the final objective is to ensure cash in hand left uh, after all expenses should be adequate. Now, there should be a target of raising saving rate by a specified percentage. That means you should consider that after 6 months, once I get a raise, I will increase my savings percentage by 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever is your capability. You should always consider increasing your savings percentage as you progress in your life. Very important point. Elimination of wasteful expenditure and cutting down discretionary expenses is very, very important if you have to increase your savings without increasing your income. Whatever lump sum receipts which you get, sometimes you may get a dividend from the investments which you have made, or you may get some bonus. So all these things should be directly diverted to your savings. Whatever higher income which you get based on the promotion or any increment, should be an attempt should generally be made to divert it towards the savings. Suppose if the gap between income and expenses is very large, then you have to seriously consider cutting down your expenses or increasing your source of income. If the difference between saving desired and actual saving is small, it's a common sense, then bridging will not be difficult. Now, how to create a personal balance sheet and net worth? See, balance sheet basically consists of assets and liabilities. Okay. Now, the difference between the asset and liability is your net worth. So, what are the assets? Assets, there are different types of assets. Let us analyze each one of them. There are physical assets. See, physical assets are generally illiquid. They have lack of regulation, and they need specific skills to buy and sell. And also, a substantial savings amount is required to buy. For example, physical assets are your most common is your real estate. Next comes the financial assets. Financial assets are highly liquid. It has got a well regulated market. There are standardized products are there, and you can also invest a very small amount. You can start investing at a very small amount. Very good example is your FDs, mutual funds, shares, everything. They all come under liquid assets. And generally, the another differentiation is made, that is growth oriented assets. See, growth oriented assets are the one which gives you growth in your investment. Example is your real estate. See, if the real estate, if you have made an investment in a plot 10 years back, it may cost, it may be, re-rated at a higher rate. So that is called as a growth asset. Similarly, there are something called as income oriented assets. See, income oriented assets give you regular monthly income. For example, your mutual funds, if your FDs, if you have invested in dividend paying stocks, that is also one of the income oriented asset. Now you have to create a budget and a saving plan. So how to make a successful budget and a saving plan? First of all, you should collect information about the sources of income and expenditure of a household. Clearly separate different heads of income and expenditure in minute detail. This is very important aspect. So you have to clearly separate the difference of heads of expenditure. See, budget figure should be based on expenses incurred in the past 1 year. Likely expenses in future should also be considered. So what I'm trying to say is, budget figure should be based on your expenses incurred in the past 1 year. Likely expenses in future should also be considered. Now coming to the next aspect, budget should always have contingency figure to cater for disruptive spend. You can think of a number of disruptive spend. The first one is the medical expenses. Sometimes there may be an expense regarding breakdown in your vehicle or something like that. So these are all disruptive spends. Saving should always be done by curtailing your expenses. There should be a proper allocation for savings through direct transfer. That is a very important aspect. See, the money saved is money expended less. What it means to say is, suppose if you want to save, as soon as your money comes to your bank account, you have to ensure that there is a direct transfer of the amount to your savings. For example, it can be a provident fund, or it can be a public provident fund, or it can be a new pension scheme. So this is very important for you to understand this. Sorry for this disturbance which we are getting. I mean, I can't help about these people who are coming on the road. Now coming to contingency planning. Contingency planning is very important for your house. The first one is your health insurance, and the second is your the emergency fund. All the emergency fund should be held in liquid assets. It can be held in liquid assets like fixed deposit, or it can be put in short term debt funds, which you can take out immediately. You can also hold emergency fund in a laddered form to getting better returns. See, usually emergency fund is considered for 6 months expenditure. Whatever the average expenses which you make a month, multiplied by 6, and that should be your emergency fund. This emergency fund should be replenished as soon as possible. Suppose if you dig into your emergency fund, try and refill it as soon as possible. Now coming to the new generation, see, the new generation of couples, they have another risk that is called as the separation risk. Nowadays, most of the couples are in the living relationship. Some of them are married on a, there are different ways in which couple can come together. I don't have to explain that here, but separation risk is there. For that, couple can resort to prenuptial arrangements. Now, especially for most of the couples these days are double income. So double income families should have a holding pattern as per the investment made, and person not making the investment can be a joint holder. Okay. Healthy distribution between both these spouses for assets and liability is a very important aspect for the present generation of couples. Another method is to keep a salary account different and open a joint account and put money for your household expenses as per the understanding. So it is very common thing. So you can open an expenses account and put money based on the amount of expenditure you want to make for the household expenses, and your you know husband or wife has to make. So this helps better tax planning for both the spouses and better investment. Now coming to a very important aspect is the measurement of your assets, liabilities. So this is done through a process of ratios. So how to assess your financial position using ratios? See, these are basically important for your financial planner. But if a person who is taking advice from the financial planner also knows all this, that will be very helpful. Now coming to the savings ratio. See, it is the percentage of annual income a person is able to save. Simple. So what should be savings ratio? Savings ratio should be your annual savings divided by your annual income. It's a very simple, straightforward ratio. So if your annual income should include your salary income, business income, interest income, and dividends. What are your annual savings? Annual saving is your contribution to your provident fund, any FD you make, any mutual fund you invest, whether you have invested in real estate, gold, all these come under annual savings. So annual income divided by annual savings gives you savings ratio. Your annual saving is annual income minus annual expenditure. The second ratio, which is very closely observed, is your savings to income ratio. See, your savings to income ratio should be high always. So this ratio helps to measure the preparedness to meet long-term goals such as marriage, retirement, etc. Because if your savings to income ratio is more, so you will save more. Hence, you will be better prepared to achieve your long-term goals. This ratio also depends upon the age. So a person who is younger generally will spend more, hence his savings ratio will be less. But as the person starts getting aged, the income will increase, and hence the saving ratio may also increase. An ideal saving ratio should be at least 3 times the annual ratio. So this is very important. You have to understand this. So your ideal savings ratio should be 3 times your annual income generally. It is nothing but the ratio of total savings to date to annual income. So savings to income ratio is total savings divided by your annual income gives you savings to income ratio. What are expense ratio? It is the annual recurring expenses incurred in a year to the annual income. Just the way you did the savings ratio and income ratio, you can do the expense ratio. So expense ratio is your annual recurring expenses divided by your annual income. It is can also be calculated as 1 minus savings ratio. Very simple. Non-recurring expenses are kept out of the expense ratio. So if you are making one-time expenses, don't put it in your expenses. It will not be counted. So only recurring expenses are counted. Now coming to total assets. See, savings of an individual is deployed in various fashions, as we have discussed. It can be PPF, post office income, real estate, gold, anything. But however, to calculate the asset required for achieving goals, uh, residential house and any asset meant for personal use should not be considered. So, when you are taking total assets, your personal residence and your personal utility vehicles will not be considered as part of your asset and it should be excluded. Similarly, liabilities are the loan and credits taken to acquire assets or to meet your expenses. You use credit cards or you take loan for buying a house, you take loan for buying a car. So all these are all liabilities for you. So what is your leverage ratio? See, it is the ratio of total liabilities divided by total assets. Lesser is your leverage ratio, your solvency will be high. Higher is your leverage ratio, your solvency will be less. I will explain it how. Higher the ratio means more risky for the individual. So a ratio higher than what indicates that the assets cover your liabilities. Suppose if you are taking loans everywhere to buy assets and you are paying more interest to the loan, then it will not be a good investment because your liabilities will be more than your cost of your total assets. Now coming to net worth. A strong asset position is of no use if most of it are acquired through loans that are outstanding. That's what I said. Your asset position, the value of the asset should be greater than your liabilities. But if the value of the assets which you have acquired through loans and other things is less than the loan amount which you are paying and the interest you are paying, then your net worth will be negative. So liability is also not bad if it is used to create asset that appreciate. That's what I'm saying. If your asset are a depreciating asset, your loan using loan to buy depreciating asset like car and other things will not be a good idea. However, they are all requirement of life. Similarly, if you buy an asset like real estate, that is an appreciating asset. So that will be a good method of acquiring real estate through loan because it is an appreciating asset. Similarly, gold can also be considered as an appreciating asset. So what is your net worth? Your net worth is your total asset minus total liabilities. In our case, Mr. Ravi, if we consider his total assets are 1 lakh, total liability is 70, let us assume, and his net worth will be 30,000. Now, coming to the solvency ratio, which I had said, no, a person should be solvent. See, despite having a lot of assets, a person can be insolvent if his liabilities are more and assets do not appreciate. So, we come to the conclusion of calculating the solvency ratio. The extent of investor solvency can be determined through a solvency ratio. Solvency ratio is nothing but your net worth divided by your total assets. For the same asset, stronger the solvency ratio, stronger is the financial position. Okay, so his net worth should always be more than the total assets. It is equal to 1 minus your leverage ratio also. Now let us analyze some concepts of assets. One is a liquid assets. Okay, so liquid assets are assets which can be converted to cash immediately. You can take the example of your fixed deposit, mutual fund, gold, your savings bank account. They all comes under liquid assets. Even your equity shares, open-ended mutual funds, they are all liquid assets. But your closed ended mutual fund are not liquid because the value of these assets vary on a daily basis. Now, coming to liquidity ratio. See, what he's saying is equity shares and open-ended mutual funds are not liquid because the value of these assets vary on a daily basis. But my opinion is you can, in an emergency, even if you want to liquidate your shares or open-ended mutual funds, you can do so. You may not get the same value or the value may be higher or lower on a daily basis, but it is liquid. Liquidity ratio is the ratio of your liquid assets to your monthly income. So it should always be 4 to 6 times. So suppose if your liquid assets are about 1 lakh, and if your monthly income is you know 10,000, so you have a liquidity ratio of 10. So this will ensure the individual to survive at least 6 months without any income. That what we talked about. What should be the emergency fund? It should be 4 to 6 times. So you should keep your emergency fund in liquid assets. That's why we say that your liquidity ratio should be 4 to 6 times your monthly income. Liquid assets to net worth ratio. See, liquid asset to net worth ratio is interpreted in the light of the goals that is required to be achieved by the individual. If there is a longer period to the goal, this ratio must be low, that is liquid assets to net worth ratio, because liquid assets have lower rate of return. But if the period of goal is less, then liquid assets to net worth ratio should be more. Now coming to the financial assets ratio. Assets are broadly classified as financial assets and physical assets. We have already discussed. So usually financial assets are uh, income generating instruments. So a higher proportion of financial assets are preferred when the goals are near. So if you are already 40, 45 and you want to achieve a retirement goal, marriage, new house, so in such case, financial assets are preferred over the fixed assets. So your financial asset ratio is nothing but your financial assets divided by your total assets. That gives you your financial asset ratio. Now coming to another important concept is your debt to income ratio. Debt to income ratio is equal to your monthly debt servicing amount divided by your monthly income. So it should be, debt to income ratio should always be less. Leverage ratio measures the extent of debt used in asset acquisition. So debt to income ratio gives whether an individual will be able to service the debt. That's why I'm saying your debt to income ratio should always be less. So your monthly debt servicing amount divided by your monthly income should be less. It means you are giving a less portion of your monthly income to servicing your debt. So these are the various aspects of financial, cash flow analysis, various ratio, how to manage the finances. I hope you have got a good input about all these aspects. I will see you in the next, video with regards to, Indian financial markets. Thank you.